Today is Monday, March 6th, 2023, and today I want to start by reading Isaiah and then just give another example of a topic of research if you're interested in history resets, falsified history, things about history that make no sense, make you scratch your head. What else could you call it? Amazing stonemasonry buildings that were built in 3 years or less. Whatever you want to title this, or this topic of research, it's an interesting one. And what I'm going to show at the end of this video is one specific topic, which I find very fascinating, that I've only just begun looking into. And I probably won't dive that deep into it, but I had no idea that there were grand cathedrals in China, of all places. So I don't know what the story is behind that. I'm honestly not that interested in their BS backstories. Once you know it's all fake and just made up stuff, you kind of lose interest. I don't want to read 500 pages of fake history. But it's still amazing nonetheless to see that they play the same trick all over the earth to explain away these amazing buildings. That there must have just been so many groups of people that they were missionaries with horses and buggies, but they also were like the most supreme experts in stonemasonry building that we've ever had, and we can't build them like that today. Anyways, let's read Isaiah chapter 36, and then I will show you the interesting pictures of cathedrals in China. Okay, so I'm just apologizing ahead of time for doing my best when it comes to the names in this chapter. There's some interesting names. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defenced cities of Judah and took them. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army, and he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Then came forth unto Eliakim, Hilkiah's son, which was over the house, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, Asaph's son, the recorder. And Rabshakeh said unto them, Say ye now to Hezekiah, Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is this wherein thou trustest? I say, sayest thou, but they are but vain words. I have counsel and strength for war. Now on whom dost thou trust, that thou rebellest against me? Lo, thou trustest in the staff of this broken reed on Egypt, whereon if a man lean, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all that trust in him. Some cool imagery there. But if thou say to me, We trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah hath taken away, and said to Judah and to Jerusalem, Ye shall worship before this altar? Now therefore give pledges, I pray thee, to my master, the king of Assyria, and I will give thee 2,000 horses, if thou be able on thy part to set riders upon them. Okay, so very interesting. Just the way that I'm taking this is this person saying, well, I took over your lands, and oh, you're saying you trust in God, but look at, you have your monuments to your God, but I came and took over. So now bow to my master, the king of Assyria. Just so much going on here. We're not to call anybody master on this earth. I take Jesus's words very specifically. When Jesus tells us to not call anybody master on this earth and to not call anybody father on this earth, I take that very literally. And I think that it's to remind us that there is only one master, that's God, and to remind us that there is only one father. It doesn't even matter who your bio dad is. I think that Jesus' words were specific, and I think he was being literal when he said to not call anyone master, to not call anyone father on earth, because it gets used in this way. It's like an idolatry thing. People idolize masters. They want you to pray to the master. How then wilt thou turn away the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put thy trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? And I am now come up without the Lord against this land to destroy it. The Lord said unto me, Go up against this land and destroy it. This is a really interesting chapter. I don't want to say wrong things, but it's just There's a lot that can be taken away from this. Let me just say what's coming to mind. You have these people that are supposed to be God's chosen people, and they're supposed to be worshiping God in truth and the one creator God. But they fall short constantly, and they're actually idolaters. So God can use a wicked or evil force like the Assyrians, this bloodthirsty war machine, to come in and reprimand his people, because God's people are always turning their ways. I mean, I'm a wretch. I need to be saved. That's why we need a Messiah. That's why we needed Jesus, because we need to be redeemed. None of us are worthy. And those are just things that come to mind, because this guy's like mocking them. So what comes to mind is that they're being mocked. You're supposed to be God's people, then how come us big bad Assyrians can come in and wipe out all your stuff, and now you got to bow to my master, the king of Assyria? Okay. Then said Eliakim and Shebna and Joah unto Rabshakeh, Speak, I pray thee, unto thy servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it, and speak not to us in the Jews' language, in the ears of the people that are on the wall. Interesting. But Rabshakeh said, Hath my master sent me to thy master, and to thee to speak these words? Hath he not sent me to the men that sit upon the wall, that they may eat their own dung, and drink their own piss with you? Wow. See, so often in the Bible I'm reading, I'm like, modern. It is such a lie. It is a huge lie that they push, that, the King James Version is hard to read. A lot of times the King James Version is much more readable than a lot of the other versions, and it strikes me as odd. Why is the King James Version so readable? Why can we grab this Bible version from 400 years ago and read it, and it seems modern, like talking about eating dung and piss? That just seems so modern. And I have theories about that. I think that English, modern English, I think is the ruling language of Earth, Babylon, right now on purpose. I actually think that English is a dug up ancient language. That's my personal belief. I think that it is Chaldean, modern day English. Okay, that's just a personal theory. Here we go. Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language, and said, Hear ye the words of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus saith the king, Let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, The Lord will surely deliver us. This city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria. Okay, so here's this guy trying to sow doubt into the hearts of these people. Make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and eat ye every one of his vine, and every one of his fig tree, and drink ye every one of the waters of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Beware lest Hezekiah persuade you, saying, The Lord will deliver us. Hath any of the gods of the nations delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? So he's taunting them. This war machine Assyria has come and wiped out all sorts of pagan people, I'm sure. And so he's claiming the same to them. Don't let your people say that God's going to deliver you, because the big bad Assyrian's here and we're going to take you out. Of course, these are all my interpretations. So leave yours on the comment, or correct me if you have a different opinion. Where are the gods of Hamath and Arphad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim? And they have delivered Samaria out of my hand? Oh, and have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the gods of these lands that have delivered their land out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? But they held their peace, and answered him not a word. For the king's commandment was saying, Answer him not. Then came Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, that was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph. The repetition of these names is interesting to me. Why do it's like they're doing a roll call, attendance. They're setting the new stage, and you know how when you're reading a play, it like tells you all the characters that are there? That's what this reminds me of. That somebody's taking attendance, somebody's taking care to see who all the characters are at each location. That's at least to me why they would keep repeating. So then came Elikim, the son of Hilkiah, that was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph, the recorder, to Hezekiah with their clothes rent, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. Okay, so I'm guessing the next chapter is probably going to be a reply, I would guess. Anyways, fun reading. I'm really enjoying reading the book of Isaiah, and I hope that you are enjoying it as well. Okay, so now to the thing I was talking about at the beginning, China. Look at this list of cathedrals in China. Did you guys know that there were cathedrals in China that look exactly like the cathedrals that are in other places of the world? If somebody just showed you this picture and you had to guess where it was, would anybody have guessed China? The same thing all over Earth. Sacred Heart Cathedral in Guangzhou. Where's this one? This one looks straight out of Italy. So this is a really cool topic to research if you want to. How history is completely made up. History is totally fabricated. There was already a civilization that was all over the earth, and they built amazing stone masonry buildings. And they're still around today, and just the people who own them have changed hands. And that's why you have these huge institutions like the Vatican that own these crazy old buildings, and why all these old buildings are owned by governments. And they are all owned by governments. I was going to say things like hospitals, jail, but it's all government entities that own these buildings. They'll turn them into governments, jails, schools, government buildings, rich people. The land will all be donated because all of this was an inheritance. It was a huge inheritance after a reset. And they have to just scramble to make up fake history for explaining where these things come from. China! What? What is this doing in China? This is a really cool old picture. This looks like my town. The town I live in has churches that look like this in Oregon. Shanghai. Same story. Nobody would guess that this was China if they showed you a picture. This is China. Empty streets, weird, stripped bare looking vegetation. It all looks strange. Are there windows missing? Is the stuff already broken down? Why is nobody there? Same questions. The first church structure on the site was of poor quality, the roof collapsing. A lot of times they did have to come in and they have to decide, are we going to demolish this building? Which would be a huge effort. A lot of these buildings they kept around because imagine trying to demolish something like this with the technology they had at the time. Even demolishing a building like this is a huge effort. Which actually, do you know what that just reminded me of? The old trope of prisoners having to break down rocks into smaller and smaller pieces. I imagine a lot of chain gangs and prisoners and all that, they would have to tear down these buildings and then break the masonry blocks. They can't just like Lego take all the masonry blocks apart and then like, okay, now what do we do with them? They had to get rid of the evidence somewhere. My mind just went straight to that old trope of prisoners being forced to just break rocks all day. They probably had to take the nice chiseled masonry stones and break them into rubble to hide evidence. Anyways, the neo-Gothic design, what a bunch of BS. Anytime that they tell you neo-Gothic, neo-Roman, unless they have ample proof that it really was constructed when it was, it probably is not neo at all. And it probably is just actually Gothic architecture. All of those neo-Gothic churches that they tell you are neo-Gothic, that's BS. They're all Gothic and they're all from the same period and they're all representative of one culture. And they can't have people believe that. They can't have people know that there was a culture that was all over Earth building cathedrals because they were all a part of the same society, because it doesn't fit with the narrative. But look, the foundation stone, I'm going to have to read this because it's too good. The foundation stone was laid in 1866 and the church was dedicated in 1869. 3 years. So often is it like 3 years that these places are allegedly take to build. The laying of the foundation stone was a grand public event, a procession for the event starting from the nearby Masonic Hall, leading to the cathedral site, and the laying of the stone was a full Masonic ceremony. Cultural revolution. When introduced in 1940, the reset was very recent. It was not that long ago, the last history reset. That's why there's no John Smith the 17th. That's why there's not even a John Smith the 7th, because the history reset was so recent. It was not that long ago that the last history reset. But look at all this masonry. Free masonry. They didn't have to lay a cornerstone. It was already there. They got all the masonry for free. They just had a ceremony and said, hey, I built this. It took me 3 years. Okay. Well, I mean, that's it for this video. Let me know what you think about this topic. Would you like more deep dives into fake history, actually? I don't know. See, to me, it's one of those things where once you get the picture, once you get the big picture, I don't really see the point in diving in through all the details, because you see the same thing every time. It could be any country on Earth is going to have cathedrals like this where there will be some backstory where somebody built it in 3 years. So it's honestly very similar to the whole skull and bones thing. When you start to learn human anatomy and you're looking at all the celebrities, you could spend a lifetime looking at celebrity to celebrity, and it's the same story everywhere. Same story with all these old world buildings. Every country on Earth has buildings whose origins are unexplainable, and the current theory, the standard narrative, is laughable. God bless everyone.